Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. Finally got Monday out of the way. Now we just got today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, weekends here again. Uh, Last weekend, it was okay in terms of college football. We had a couple good games. Nothing really to excite you, I guess. I mean, fans like me watch anyway. Nothing really too big. Ohio State and Wisconsin, that was a pretty good game. Um, OU and Kansas, boy, that turned into a pretty good game too. But other than that, I don't know. I guess maybe if your team was playing, you enjoyed it. But this week it'll be better. It will. We got a lot of news items to get to today. Before we start, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. This one here, this first news item, so much stuff. I didn't feel like writing it all down. Screenshotted it on my phone, so I'll be reading that part off my phone. So let's get down to it. This is going to be our Week 9 review. We'll do Week 10 preview Thursday or Friday, more than likely Thursday. But all right, so let's get down to it. Remember the story? Northwestern State canceled the rest of their season after the death of player Ronnie Caldwell. I believe he was a defensive back there. So this comes out this week, a day after Northwestern State announced it canceled the rest of the football season and Coach Brad Laird resigned. The family of slain football player Ronnie Caldwell Jr. said Friday it will pursue a lawsuit in the coming weeks. Ronnie Jr. says we're not going to get into the details of what the lawsuit would entail, but we can say that the university, but we can't say this, that the university and the coach, they failed my son. Tony Prada is the lawyer they hired. He's going to represent the family. Okay, so here's the whole story here. This is what we're getting. Earlier this month, mold, black mold, I guess, was discovered in Caldwell's off-campus apartment, which resulted in him being moved to a new unit within the same complex with a non-university student roommate. So somebody didn't even go to Northwestern State. According to a statement from his family on October 9th, that roommate, John McIntosh, pulled a gun on Caldwell Jr., who reported this incident to his father. Ronnie's father immediately sent a text to Northwestern State head coach Brad Laird, alerting him that he needed help and that Ronnie's roommate had pulled a gun on him. Coach Laird replied with a phone call assuring the family that he would take immediate action and remove Ronnie to a safe location. Nothing was ever done. The family heard no updates from the university. The next call the family received from Coach Laird was telling them that Ronnie had been murdered. He was 21 years old. Damn it, this phone just... Okay. He was 21 years old. He was killed on October 12th. McIntosh was arrested that day, his roommate, arrested that day for possession of a firearm in the presence of a controlled dangerous substance. I'm guessing he was a drug dealer. Natchez, I don't know how you say it, Natchez, Louisiana, where the Northwestern State is. I can never say it. Their police department also arrested Caldwell's Northwestern State teammate, Maurice Campbell II, in connection to his death for obstruction of justice, possession of marijuana with the intent to distribute, and possession of a firearm in the presence of a controlled dangerous substance. So one of his teammates was involved with this. I guess I don't know if he was drug dealing with Caldwell's roommate or what. The family attorney, Tony Prada, said it took an ambulance over 1 hour to respond to the call, and the players from the Northwestern State basketball team waited with Caldwell until the ambulance arrived. It's unclear when he was pronounced dead, on scene or at the hospital. Nothing about that. He was a Caldwell. He was a transfer from Tyler Junior College in Texas. He had been injured this season and was working as a volunteer coach for the defensive backs while he rehabbed. Ronnie Caldwell Sr., Ronnie's father, said, "All I have to say is this could have been prevented. I called the coach. I texted him and asked him, please move my son. Somebody pulled a gun. I need you to move him. Get him away from there. Get him in a hotel until I can get there. I'll be there this weekend." He says, next thing I know, the phone call I get from this man is at about 2:07 a.m. My son is dead. Now, how do you feel being a man like me? I call myself being a protector. I've been protecting my family my whole life, and I get this call, and all I asked him to do is move my son. What's so hard? Coach Brad Larry, he's 50. He's in his sixth season as head coach of the Demons. Spent six seasons Northwestern State assistant before becoming coach in 2018. So, looks real bad there for Northwestern State and the coach, especially the father saying, hey, move my son, he's in danger, and they didn't do anything about it. Yeah, they're very bad. Horrible tragedy that should never have happened. Apparently, it really should never have happened if the coach would have done what he's supposed to do. I don't know. Don't know if it didn't really say. I don't know. Maybe he got shot or something at the coach on his way over there, or maybe the coach just could blow it off until the next day. I don't know, but either way, horrible, bad situation there at Northwestern State University. Moving on from that, really no easy way to segue from something horrible like that. Iowa. They announced today or yesterday that Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz's son, who's been the OC since 2017, he will not be back after this season. They'll let him go out through the season, coach the bowl game, whatever they get to. Remember, he signed that contract. He has to score, his offense has to score 25 points a game. Some games he has, some games he hasn't. So, interesting to see how Kirk, I think he did a press conference yesterday or interview about it. I know he's not happy about it, but it is what it is in the business of college sports. Now, Kirk, will he come back or will he retire? They want his son gone. Figure like, well, why would I stay if they want my son gone? So, I don't know. That remains to be seen. Hey, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime says his son is the best quarterback in the country. He could take a beating. And this week he called out his offensive line in a press conference. Ooh, somebody else called out. Who? I think Mac Brown. Called out the defensive coaches and defense this week too. Ooh, a lot of that going on. Speaking of North Carolina, wide receiver Tez Walker, he's out of the hospital after getting that hit blindsided in that Georgia Tech game. So that's some good news. City of Jacksonville is going to renovate Everbank Stadium where the Jacksonville Jaguars play and the Florida-Georgia game is. And what else is there? The Gator Bowl? I think the Gator Bowl's there in Jacksonville. Georgia and Florida will have to find a new neutral site to play. They haven't completely ruled out doing a home and home on campus. But last Friday, on the Paul Feinbaum show, he was interviewing the Georgia, was it athletic director or president? I don't remember. But he said they want to keep it as a neutral site. So they just love it as a neutral site. Xavier, they give men's basketball coach Sean Miller a 2-year extension. He was 27-10 last year. Took him to the Sweet 16. So they like what he's doing. They're going to extend his contract. Speaking of college basketball, NIT, they changed their format. No automatic bids for regular season champions. Power conferences will get the first 12 spots. Sometimes I'll watch the NIT if it's a good matchup, but I hate to say that. Really, a lot of times I don't pay attention to the NIT. I don't know. Like I said, every once in a while I'll watch a game, but usually I'm watching March Madness and stuff. But all right, so week 9 review. We're going to go back to a week ago tonight. New Mexico State, they got bowl eligible for their second consecutive bowl game. 6-3 now. They beat Louisiana Tech by 3. Aggie quarterback Diego Pavia, he threw a touchdown pass and he ran for one, so they got a pretty good quarterback. Liberty went 8-0. They beat Western Kentucky 42-29. Caden Salter, Liberty quarterback, 169 passing yards, touchdown, 169 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes, ran for 117 yards and a touchdown also, so he's got it going on there, huh? But hey, Austin Reed for Western Kentucky, he threw 4 touchdown passes in that game, so good quarterback against good quarterback. Wednesday, Jacksonville State, they went 7-2. They beat Florida International 41-16. Thursday, a couple of heavyweights out of state of Georgia played. Georgia Southern and Georgia State. Georgia Southern won 44-27. Both are 6-2 now. Georgia Southern's Brin, 334 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They only have 1 penalty. Georgia Southern did. Georgia State's Granger, 2 passing touchdowns. Carroll, 208 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. Man, I didn't get to see that game. I'm sorry I missed it now. It looked like a pretty good game. Saturday, Florida State, they went to 8-0, beat Wake Forest 41-16. Seminoles Travis, 359 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. Wide receiver Coleman, he had 2 touchdown catches. They were 7 for 14 on third down, 508 total yards. Did have 9 penalties for 115 yards. So, the coaches aren't happy about that. Wake Forest kind of never really in this game at all. 34-7 at half. Kind of a different team now. Sam Hartman left, but what are you going to do? Hey, Boston College, 5-3. 1 more win. Boston College, you get a bowl game. Beat UConn 21-14. OU, boy, Oklahoma, flirted with disaster for the second week in a row, and it came up and bit them in the ass, didn't it? They lose 38-33. Jason Bean for Kansas, great game for him. No passing touchdowns, but he did move the ball downfield, 218 passing yards to get them into scoring position. Neal helped with 112 rushing yards and a touchdown. Heshaw Jr., he had 2 rushing touchdowns. They were 4 for 14 on third down. Not all that great. But 2 for 3 on fourth down. So it worked out for him a little bit. Defense, man, Kansas defense forced 3 turnovers. KU seemed to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They just had their way with the Oklahoma line. So it's pretty incredible. Let's see. OU, Dylan Gabriel, no TD passes, but he did run for 3 TDs. I mean, that's pretty good. Walker, 171 rushing yards and a touchdown. They were only 2 for 10 on third down. 440 total yards, 11 penalties for 101 yards. Man. Kind of a tight game, though, the whole way. It was 21-17 at halftime. With this win, Kansas snaps a 26-game losing streak to OU. First top 10 win since 2008. And first top 10 win there at Memorial Stadium in Lawrence since 1984. And if I remember right, they beat Oklahoma in that game back in 1984. Another note, Kansas's Mello Dotson, 37-yard pick 6 in that one. Kansas State, they're 6-2 now. They beat University of Houston 41-0. Will Howard, 164 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Giddens, he ran for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 24 first downs in this game, 10 for 14 on third down, 1 penalty. That seemed to be the theme last weekend. A lot of teams only have 1 penalty. That's crazy. U of H, man, only 11 first downs, 3 for 14 on third down, only 208 total yards. Since they lost to Ohio State, Maryland, man, I don't know what to make of them. They just haven't been a good-looking team. Well, they are good-looking because they finally got back to those good uniforms, not that weird flag garbage they've been wearing for the last several years. So they do look good there. But their team, man, since that Ohio State loss, they are just not the same. Lost to Northwestern, 33-27. Northwestern, it was tied 14-14 in the first quarter. The only quarter that Northwestern outscored Maryland was in the second quarter. They outscored them 10-3, and that was pretty much the difference, I'm guessing. Northwestern Sullivan, 265 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Porter ran for a touchdown and caught a touchdown pass. Their kicker Olsen, 15 points. Northwestern defense had 6 sacks. 6 sacks and 2 turnovers. Talua from Maryland, 274 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They had a better rushing game, better passing game, better at first down, better at third down. Still lost. That's 3 in a row they have lost now. Northwestern defense, we said 6 sacks, 2 turnovers, 9 tackles for loss. Really stepped it up in the second half, though, the defense did. Offense, they really clicked in this game. Looked a lot better than they have. Maryland, get the stat, is 11-23 in October under Mike Locksley. They got to get that October problem fixed. I'm surprised at Northwestern. I really thought they were going to lose every game this year after all the crap that happened in the summer. But, man, they win some more games. Things happen in front of them. They could be in tension for the Big Ten West title. Probably unlikely because you got some better teams ahead of them, but you never know. It's college football. Heck, most people like me thought they were going to be 0-12 this year, but Penn State 7-1. They had some troubles with Indiana, but they won anyway, 33-24. Aller 210 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Penn State was 7 for 18 on third down. Where Indiana was only 3 for 11 on third down. Could have been the deciding factor because it was a close game all the way down. Let's see what else we got. Because they were close in all the other categories: passing, rushing, total yards, all that stuff. Sorsby for Indiana had a good game: 269 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He did fumble in the end zone, and a safety occurred. Penn State never really pulled away from Indiana. I mean, Indiana was just right there the whole game. It's 24-24 in the fourth quarter. Not Penn State defense's best showing, but they did get the job done. Interesting fact, Indiana has never won there in State College, ever. Crazy, huh? SMU, 6-2. They beat Tulsa by 59 points. Preston Stone, 371 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Wheaton had 2 rushing touchdowns. Defense had 5 sacks and 2 turnovers. Hey, A&M won. They beat South Carolina. Good for them, 30-17. West Virginia beat UCF, 41-28. Mountaineers defense had 4 turnovers in that game. Clemson drops to 4-4. North Carolina State beats them 24-17. Wolfpack beat them with only 9 first downs, 3 for 13 on third down, and 202 total yards. And they beat them. They did. Memphis, they're 6-2, but they beat North Texas by 3. Blake Watson, running back for Memphis, 169 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, also had 100 receiving yards. So they used him all day long. Virginia, they almost pulled an upset for the second week in a row. Lost to Miami by 3 in overtime. They're actually better in Miami than in all the categories. Passing, rushing, third down, all that. But Miami still won. Nebraska, boy, they're looking a lot better, aren't they? I mean, they're 5-3, but looking a heck of a lot better than they have been. They beat Purdue 31-14. Nebraska quarterback Harburg, 122 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a few plays, option plays. Kind of reminded you of the old Nebraska from days gone. Maybe they used to run that option all the time. They used to just run over everybody. I swear. It looked like it. I know it wasn't as good as the old Nebraska, but man, it really did look like it. It was crazy. Quentin Newsom, he returned a blocked field goal, 68 yards for a touchdown. Nebraska defense, the Black Shirts, sack, 8 tackles for loss, 3 takeaways, held Purdue to under 200 yards. Nebraska still has a turnover problem. They had put on 4 this last Saturday. Brings their total to 19 turnovers on the year. Got to stop that. You really got to stop that if you want to make a run. I don't know if they could win. They might be like Northwestern. They may be just out of the Big Ten West, but you never know. Like we said. Minnesota, 5-3. They beat Michigan State 27-12. Michigan State, well, I don't know what to think about it. That is 7 straight conference losses for Michigan State. Longest streak ever. That's crazy. Miami of Ohio, 7-2 now. They beat Ohio, who's 6-3 now, 30-16. Red Hawks, their quarterback Gabbert, he was out with an injury, so Avian Smith played. 103 passing yards, touchdown, ran for a touchdown. Outrushed Ohio 188 yards to 50 yards. They did all this there in, where's Ohio at? University of Ohio. They got the same city as another college town, but they did it there at University of Ohio with the backup quarterback. So that's pretty impressive. Auburn, they're 4-4. They beat Mississippi State, who's 4-4, 27-13. Peyton Thorne for Auburn, 230 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Not a bad day for him. Oxford, I think University of Ohio is in Oxford. And being at Halloween, pretty good ghost story there at the University of Ohio in Oxford. Look it up. Some room they don't even use anymore because some girl died or killed herself in it or something. Pretty cool ghost story. Check it out if you're bored here on Halloween. Iowa State, they're 5-3. They beat Baylor 30-18. Baylor just keeps sinking. Texas, they are 7-1 now. They beat BYU 35-6. I really thought BYU would play a better game than that, but UT backup quarterback Malik Murphy, 170 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Did throw an interception. Both those touchdowns were thrown to Adonai Mitchell. BYU never really in this game. I watched them. They got to the red zone a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. They just couldn't do anything with it. Texas defense just had them. Oregon 7-1. They put a pounding on Utah. We knew Utah without rising, it would catch up to them. Well, it did last week. Oregon beats them 35-6. Bo Nix 248 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. They outpassed and outran Utah. Barnes for Utah, 136 passing yards, no touchdowns, threw 2 picks. Oregon 7-1. Utah drops to 6-2. 7-1 Louisville. They shut out Duke 23-0. How do you say his name? Jahar Jordan for Louisville. 163 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Riley Leonard did play for Duke. He had 121 passing yards. Just don't know how effective he was. I didn't watch that game. I don't know if he's still reeling from that injury. But Duke had a good season go. They still got a good season. I mean, they'll probably get to a good bowl game, but they were looking a lot better a few weeks ago. Notre Dame, speaking of the game that Riley Leonard got hurt in, the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame, they go to 7-2, beat Pitt by 51 points. What the hell's wrong with Pitt? Estime for Notre Dame, 114 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns in that one. Nice. Chris Tyree, 82-yard punt return for a touchdown. Jaden Mickey, 43-yard pick 6. Defense had 2 sacks and forced 5 turnovers. Pitt was 1 for 11 on 3rd down. 53 rushing yards in this game. Like I said, what the hell's happened to Pitt? They were a good team there for a while. And what's happened to Appalachian State? They're usually pretty good. They slay some giant somewhere. They're 4-4 this year. Beat East Carolina 41 or Southern Miss by 10 points to get there. But man, usually Appalachian State's a lot better than that. UTSA, they're finally improving. They went to 5-3. They beat East Carolina 41-27. The quarterback was Frank Harris. He's just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like Frank Harris we've seen the last couple of years. I don't know. 7-1 Tulane. Barely beat Rice 30-28. Both quarterbacks, Pratt and Daniels, they each threw 2 touchdown passes for their teams. Pratt also ran for a touchdown. Tulane, they're hanging in there, trying to get back to that Cotton Bowl. Remember last year, that Cotton Bowl beat USC? One of the big ones this weekend, a lot of people were talking about, Georgia, Florida. Georgia beat Florida 43-20. Georgia's 8-0 now. Florida's drops to 5-3. Beck for Georgia, 315 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Edwards had 2 rushing touchdowns. McConkey, 135 receiving yards and a touchdown. Florida's Mertz, not bad, really. 230 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. But Bulldog defense, they just kind of had their way with Florida. 4 sacks in this one. Defense, Florida's defense couldn't stop Georgia's offense, pass or run. Georgia just kind of manhandled them. And, tonight is the initial season release of CFP rankings. A lot of guys think Georgia aren't going to be number one. They'll think they'll be in the top 4, but they don't think they'll be number 1. So that remains to be seen tonight. USC. Boy, they got scared, didn't they? Only beat Cal by 1. That's crazy. They're 7-2 now, but they're lucky to be there. USC's Williams, 369 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 2 touchdowns, so he had a great game. Lloyd, 115 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. They were 8 for 19 on third down, 497 total yards. USC defense forced 4 turnovers. Another theme of the weekend, you have teams that have 1 penalty, and then you have teams that have 10 or 11 penalties. USC fits the latter. 11 penalties for 101 yards. No wonder why Cal is still in it. Cal's Mendoza, 292 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, not too bad. Ott, 153 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. 3 rushing touchdowns for Ott for Cal. They were 6 for 14 on third down, 527 total yards. Cal's defense had 4 sacks and a touchdown. Cal and Arizona, 2 Pac-12 teams, well, former Pac-12 teams, I guess, having a lot of trouble the last few years. Those are 2 much improved teams. Stanford and Arizona are still lacking, or Arizona State are still lacking behind. They need to catch up, but Cal and Arizona, they've much improved, those 2 schools there. Arkansas State's 4-4. They beat Louisiana Monroe by 10 points. Louisiana, Raging Cajuns, they are 5-3. They beat Southern Alabama 33-20. Raging Cajun defense, 5 sacks and 5 turnovers. Nice game for them. Boise State, they moved to 4-4, which is crazy. Boise State's usually a damn good team. Beat Wyoming. Wyoming fell to 5-3. Wyoming looking very promising at the beginning of the year. Looks like they might be fading a little bit. Anyway, Boise beats them 32-7. Wyoming, only 8 first downs in this game. 1 for 11 on third down. 112 total yards. Boise defense really worked them over. Coastal Carolina, they're 5-3. That's a team that should be better. They beat Marshall 34-6. Washington, they got a scare from Stanford 2nd week in a row. Who scared them last week? Was it Cal or Arizona State? Yeah, one of them scared them. Well, they got a second one. But they did win 42-33 over Stanford. Penix Jr., 369 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. 2 of them were to Polk. Numbers in all the categories were close. Rushing, passing, total yards, all that stuff. Ashton Daniels, Stanford quarterback, 367 passing yards, touchdown. He also ran for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Much like USC, I think the Achilles heel for Washington is defense. I really do. That's what's going to end up losing them a game. And they play USC this weekend in the Coliseum, if I remember right. So you never know. It could be that game. Defense really needs to start stepping up better. Tennessee beat Kentucky 33-27. Tennessee's 6-2 now. Kentucky falls to 5-3. Joe Milton for the Vols, 228 passing yards and a touchdown. Wright had 120 rushing yards and a touchdown. Tennessee, 254 total yards on the ground in this game. They got it done on the ground. Kentucky's Leary, 372 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, only 72 rushing yards for Kentucky. They need to find a run game. Tennessee, they just dominated the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. Kentucky really couldn't get much going and much protection, but hey. Air Force, they are 8-0. They beat Colorado State 30-13 in the snow. If you saw that game, it was snowing. Troy, they're 6-2. They beat Texas State 31-13. Gunnar Watson, quarterback for Troy, 392 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Also ran for a touchdown. Ohio State, Wisconsin. That was a pretty good game. I'll watch that one. Very close for 3/4 of the game, maybe even a little bit longer. But Ohio State ends up winning it 24-10. Ohio State undefeated at 8-0. Wisconsin, they're 5-3 now. Ohio State's McCord, 226 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Did throw 2 interceptions, but Wisconsin could never really capitalize off the turnovers. Their offense just couldn't get in there and get a touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr., man, what a player. 123 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Guy's incredible. If he keeps playing like that, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets up there to New York for the Heisman and maybe bumps one of those quarterbacks out. Wisconsin's lock, 165 passing yards and a touchdown. Tanner, how do you say his name? Mordecai. He's out with an injury, so Locke played. Defense, though. Wisconsin defense gave their team a real chance to win. 4 sacks. They forced 3 turnovers. Like I said, offense just couldn't get in there and do anything with those turnovers. Both teams good on third down. Ohio State's defense, they've given up just 80 points in 8 games this year. That's a hell of a stat there. They haven't given up a play longer than 40 yards. So they've got a heck of a defense. It's going to be very interesting to see how they go up against that Michigan offense here in a couple weeks. UCLA, they beat Colorado 28-16. UCLA is 6-2. Colorado is 4-4. Colorado O-line gave up 7 sacks, beat up Deion Sun. He called him out, and he also said his kid is the best quarterback in the country. Ole Miss 7-1. They beat Vanderbilt 33-27. Judkins for Ole Miss, 124 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Dart, touchdown pass and a touchdown run. Rebels defense had 5 sacks, 2 turnovers against Vanderbilt. North Carolina, what are we going to do with you? Man, you started off strong. You were heading down like a locomotive down the track, and you've derailed a couple times. I don't know. Lost to Georgia Tech 46-42. And then afterwards, Mac Brown called out the defense and the defensive coaches on this one. Wasn't for a lack of trying, though. Seems like Mac Brown's right because Drake May, 310 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, then he ran for a touchdown. Hampton, 153 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 for 15 on third down, 527 total yards. And, Mac's right. Defense just let him down. What happened last week, too. And him and Gene Chizik worked together for a long time, been friends for a long time. Man, I bet it's kind of walking on eggshells around that coaching office right now. Haynes King for Georgia Tech, 287 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Nice game for him. Why he couldn't do that at Texas A&M, I don't know. 2 of them were to Brett Seether. They were 8 for 13 on third down, 635 total yards for the Yellow Jackets. Outrushed North Carolina, had less penalties. Georgia Tech rushed for 246 yards in the 4th quarter alone. Tell me that NC run defense. Tell me that. I don't know what to say about him. Gene Chizik, he's walking on eggshells. Oklahoma State, hey, they're doing the reverse of what they usually do. Usually Oklahoma State starts off strong and then fades. This year they started off faded, but man, they've really moved on. 6-2 now. Beat Cincinnati 45-13. Bowman for Oklahoma State, 2 touchdown passes. Gordon, 271 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. This guy everybody overlooks. Nobody talks about him except on the highlight shows. Ollie Gordon, guy's a hell of a running back. You just wonder, can he do enough and get enough spotlight to get up there to New York in December? I don't know. Oklahoma State, 601 total yards. After starting off great, Washington State has lost 4 in a row. Remember, them and Oregon State, they were the 2 that were left out of conference realignment. They are proving to the world they deserve it because they were beating teams. And now Washington State is getting beat. Arizona State beats them. Arizona State, 38-27. That's kind of like North Carolina losing to Virginia. Boys tied in the first quarter at 7. Sun Devils outscored them second, third, and fourth quarter to win that game. Brooks, 3 rushing touchdowns for the Sun Devils. Ward for Washington State, passed for a touchdown. He also ran for 2 touchdowns. They were 3 for 12 on third down. That don't help you any. James Madison, they're 8-0 now. They beat Old Dominion 30-27. Jordan McLeod for James Madison, 340 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Also ran for a touchdown. Brown, 142 receiving yards, 2 touchdown catches. Defense for James Madison, 5 sacks and forced a turnover. Arizona, we just talked about a few minutes ago. They've improved. They're 5-3 now. They beat Oregon State, who's 6-2, still having a great season. But yeah, they lost. Now they're down to 6-2. They beat them 27-24. Arizona quarterback Noah Fifta, I think that's how you say it. 275 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. 2 of them he threw to Wiley. Beavers, though, they did have better numbers in all categories, but they still managed to lose the game. Seems like another theme of last weekend. A lot of penalties. And a lot of people having better categories than the person that beat them. Better numbers in all categories than the person that beat them. I don't know. Fresno State. Boy, this was a good game. I watched this game because they were both good teams. Fresno State, they're 7-1 now. They beat UNLV, who fell to 6-2, 31-24. Fresno State quarterback Mikey Keene, 256 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. UNLV, again, had a better rushing and passing game, but still lost. They had 4 turnovers in this game and 6 penalties, so that's not going to win you the game. But it was a good game, really good game. Get this. San Jose State, they go to Hawaii. They enjoy the beach, the nice food, the luau's, they're having fun, meeting girls. Then, when they get the chance, they go over to Hawaii Stadium, whatever they call it, and beat the Warriors 35-0. Shaven Corderio, 251 passing yards, 2 touchdowns for San Jose State. Kerry Robinson, 146 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Nash, he caught 2 touchdown passes. Defense had 4 sacks, forced 3 turnovers. Hawaii only had 198 total yards. All right, so the FCS, their playoff picture is starting to shape up. Starting to see who's going to be in it, who's not. I'll go over some of these games real quick. North Carolina Central, they're 7-1. They beat South Carolina State 62-28. Davius Richard, quarterback for North Carolina Central, 5 touchdown passes. Lafayette, they're 7-1. They beat Georgetown 35-25. Butler, they're 6-3. They beat Valparaiso 17-7. Albany, they're 6-3. They beat Maine 37-21. Delaware 7-1. They beat Towson 51-13. Delaware's running back Mars Yarns, I think that's how you say his name, Mars Yarns. 4 rushing touchdowns, and he caught a touchdown pass. Chattanooga, they're 7-2. They beat VMI 24-23. Hunter Rice, the running back for VMI, even though they lost, 208 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Nice game for him. Too bad they just couldn't score a couple more points. Tennessee Martin, they dropped to 6-2. They lost to Gardner Webb, who's 4-4, 38-34. Furman 7-1. They beat Eastern Tennessee State 16-8. Villanova 6-2. They beat Stony Brook 48-13. Villanova's quarterback Watkins, 361 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Game I thought was going to be a lot better. I was even bitching because it wasn't on TV. Probably a good thing it wasn't on TV. South Dakota State, they are 8-0. They beat South Dakota, who's 6-2, 37-3. I thought the Coyotes would put up a better fight against the Jackrabbits. Didn't happen. Both great teams. I still expect South Dakota Coyotes to make it to the playoffs, though. St. Thomas, Minnesota, they're 6-3. They beat Marist 49-14. Mercer 6-3. They beat Western Carolina 45-38. Montana 7-1. They beat Northern Colorado 40-0. Tennessee State 6-2. They beat Lindenwood 43-20. Jackson State, they're 6-3. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 40-14. Richmond 6-3. They beat Campbell 44-13. North Dakota State, they're 6-2. They beat Murray State 38-6. Idaho is 6-2. They beat Montana State 24-21. Montana State is 6-2 now. I thought Montana State would beat Idaho. Idaho is just starting to come up again and be a good team, where Montana State has been a good team for years. But hey, give it to Idaho Vandals. They went in there to beat them. Southern Illinois 6-2. They beat Western Illinois 63-0. Baker 3 touchdown passes in that one. Lester ran for 3 touchdowns. Harvard, they're 6-1. They beat Dartmouth 17-9. Florida A&M, they're 7-1. They beat Prairie View A&M 45-7. Florida A&M's quarterback Morsa, 272 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Great game for him. Austin Peay, they're 6-2. They beat Northern Alabama 49-39. Incarnate Word is 7-1. They beat Lamar 17-7. Tarleton State 6-3. Beat Central Arkansas by 2 points. Davidson, they're 6-2. They beat Presbyterian 45-28. Sacramento State 6-2. They beat Idaho State 51-16. So that brings us to tonight. Tomorrow night, we got a few games here. Tonight, Northern Illinois versus Central Michigan. Both are 4-4. Toledo, who's 7-1, goes to 3-5 Buffalo. It's probably gonna be pretty damn cold at those games. And then tomorrow night, you got 2-6 Ball State versus 4-4 Bowling Green, and Kent State versus Akron, who are both 1-7. Have a good day. We'll be back Thursday to preview what's coming up. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Stay busy. Week will go by fast. We'll see you next time.